The second performance we're going to look at is from Zoe LaFleur, the 12-year-old magicianette that done a great little card trick. And I'm going to do a performance of this and then talk you through it, and also about the editing that's now been employed in Penn and Teller Fool Us. So this is the trick. This is what happened. She offers a card. Well, she spreads the cards to show that they're all different and mixed up. That was fine. She then offered Penn the card and took it back and says, no, you should really have a free choice. And she then proceeded to spread the pack across the table. Penn came along and took a card. He took a card from over here. Okay, let's just see, it's the 4 of diamonds. So Penn took that. She turned her back and said to Teller, can you grab a bunch of cards somewhere from the middle? Which he did. So if I just grab a bunch of cards, and he took those below the table and she asked him to count them. She turned round, gathered the cards up, and then said to Penn, I want you to put your card back in the pack. And she then proceeded to do this. When she did that, she then put it down, and instead what she said she'd do is she'd deal cards onto the table and at any point get him to call stop, which he did. He said stop. She said put your card on this one, which he did. Puts it in there. She then took some cards and dropped them on and said she will lose your card in here anywhere in the pack. And she proceeded to deal cards down. She picked up the cards and she gave him a couple of cuts. She said, we'll lose your card in the pack. She turned to Teller and says, what I'm going to do is turn around and I want you to place some of your cards on the top and some on the bottom. And he took his cards. Now here we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards. He put some on top, some at the bottom, squared them and put them on there. She turned around and she proceeded to ask Teller for the number. And he said 7. She dealt the cards down, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And there is the card. Now Zoe's trick I thought was a great performance and routine. But Penn did actually reveal at the end 2 things that were crucial to this. First of all, he mentioned what card cheats do. In other words, she was using a marked deck, marked cards. The other revelation he made was about the crimp. And a crimp is something that magicians have been doing for centuries. It's where we crimp a card either on the top or we do it at the bottom with our little pinky and just bend down a corner of a card. That way when we cut the cards we can cut back to that crimp. So he was spot on there. The one thing about this trick is the card that Penn took was of no relevance to Zoe. She couldn't care less about the card. It was a free choice. The one thing that makes this trick work is that she had to know how many cards Teller had grabbed. And to do that she was using a stacked marked deck. Now you can use any stack system you want, but you must know what cards are where. Okay, now let me show you how. I've made this demonstration a little bit easier by putting all the cards in order so you can follow along. So these cards here are actually in order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, Jack, Queen, King. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to King. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So they're in order. That way you can follow along. So they are in order just for this demonstration. Let me show you. When she spread the cards, the card that Penn took was neither here nor there. Okay, any card will do. But when Teller took a bunch of cards, now let me just take a bunch of cards from here. Okay, quite a few there. When she gathered the cards up, she's going to hold a break for the next part. So she held a break between the two cards where Teller took his from. Now, if I have a look at this, this is where she could work out how many cards he took. Because when she held up the cards to say, put your card back, but I could be cheating, all she's seeing is this card, which in my case is a 7, and she's looking at the marked card here. Now, this is card number 4. So this is a 4. Okay. Now I know, just by looking at this because of the sequence, that if that's a 7, there's another 6 cards to the king and then 3 here, so that's 9. So I know just by looking at these that there's 9 cards here. Let's just see if I'm right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There they are. There's 9 cards there. Once you know how many cards are missing between these 2 points, that's the whole trick done. That's all that Zoe had to do. She just had to remember that number. So once she remembered that there's 9, she doesn't have to hold this break anymore. The cards are dropped down. She then drops clumps of cards on the table. Penn calls stop. She asked him to put his card on there. Now what she's doing at this point is she's crimping the card. Okay, she's crimping the card like this. Okay, so once she's crimped the card, Penn puts this back on top. In fact, I'll put it face up so we can follow it. What she then does is she's counting the cards. What she's got to do, because at this point we don't know what Teller has taken, his secret number, but she does. She knows it's 9. So what she's doing is she's dealing off 9 cards. She takes a clump of cards, so there's 4 there, and then maybe she takes another 5 cards and drops them on there. Now this is where Penn and Teller spot what she did. You can see it on the video quite clearly. They look at each other and smile. If you play this back in slow motion, you'll see that when she takes the next clump of cards, and she kind of fiddles a bit at this point, but if you look closely, what she does, she takes some of the top, but she also slides the bottom card as well. So she actually slides, let me just show you, she slides that bottom card. This bottom card has got the crimp. She drops those on top. That's when Penn looks at Teller and they both do a smile. They've seen what she's done with the crimp, everything. The rest of the cards can be dropped in any random order. She squares them up. She then does a couple of cuts, and we see this, and puts the cards down. Now because of the crimp, I can cut to exactly the 9 cards down to the chosen card. Now this is the thing. Now at this point there's a discrepancy because she puts the cards down, she then turns her back and says to Teller, can you put some of your cards on top and some at the bottom? Now this is where the producers of Penn and Teller, more so on this season than previous ones, have done some editing. They've cut a piece out. This is called a jump cut. This is where they cut a piece of film out. And to hide that, they put in what's called a cutaway shot. It's quite a common thing used in filmmaking. It's called a cutaway shot. And the cutaway shot is a shot of a woman. Now I don't know whether it's her mother, but at that point there's some footage missing. How do we know for sure that there was a cut? Well, 100% sure there is a cut, and I'll tell you why. Unless it's real magic, and there's no such thing as real magic, not unless you believe in Harry Potter. So there was definitely a cut, because the last part is where Teller puts some cards on top and some cards at the bottom. Puts some on top, some on the bottom, and then she does nothing. She turns around and deals the cards down, and it's in exactly the right place. There's no way in a million trillion years that could have happened. Trust me. What happened on the cutaway is, I believe, the bit that is missing is that she picked up the cards and done another cut. It's the only way, because nobody could predict how many cards Teller would put on the top and on the bottom. Nobody. So that was random. So the bit that's missing, I believe, is a cut. Because if she did a cut like this, the whole trick works. And that's what I believe they cut out. If you watch it back yourself, between her putting the cards down and asking Penn to put some cards on the top, some cards on the bottom, at that point you get a shot of a lady in the audience. Why? We didn't need that. That's called a cutaway shot, because it hides what we call a jump cut. She then deals down the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and there it is there, the cards in that position. And that's how it works. So remember, the whole trick relies on just knowing when the cards were taken, how many were taken. That's the whole premise of the trick. Till next time, practice and enjoy.